It's actually a trend now, actually, that creators are moving or are making a switch from Adobe Premiere Pro to Davinci Resolve. And it so happens that one of you asked me same question, whether I'm going to be making the switch. And in this episode of Q&A with Moa, I'm going to be answering just that. For me personally, color grading has become a big part of what I do, and Adobe Lumetri just doesn't give me as much controls as Resolve. Whoever has a problem with that, go and argue with your ancestors. The colors I get when I render out of Resolve, I just feel like it's always better than the one that comes out of Premiere. Premiere has this broadcast safety thing, and that thing was really annoying. It came to my notice 2 years ago. The way your colors look when you finish grading in the software is completely different from the way it looks when you export. And you know, this made me hate any form of color grading inside of Premiere Pro. So I literally moved all of my color grading to Davinci for like 2 years now. But there is a fix though. There is this QT gamma compensation lot that you're supposed to apply when exporting, that is now supposed to make sure that you're getting the correct colors. So firstly, what you want to do is you want to go to the Edit tab. Under Preferences, you want to select General, and then make sure that the Display Color Management is selected, and then you can now go ahead and color grade your footage anyhow you want. By the time you're done, in the Export tab, simply now use the QT gamma compensation lot while you are exporting, and that's it. And it's supposed to now make your colors consistent. But me, I'm not convinced. I still wasn't convinced. I'm still not convinced, and that has made me tend to lean more towards Davinci Resolve than Premiere Pro. Even when I started this YouTube channel, it was Davinci Resolve that I was using to export. But due to some extra factors, about 6 of them, which I'm going to be talking about now, I haven't made the complete switch. I think I'm in the middle. I'm on the fence. I'm neither here or there. I just use both softwares for my work, and depending on the particular project and the particular workflow, that would determine which software would be used more than the other software. But now let's talk about 6 other notable reasons why other creatives and even perhaps you might be considering moving from Premiere Pro to Davinci Resolve. Number 1 reason will be finding my way around. Maybe it's just me and the many years that I've spent with Premiere Pro, but I just find that there are some things that are so much more straightforward and easier to do in Premiere Pro than they are in Davinci. I find that I often have to go on YouTube to check a tutorial. It's something as simple as taking a left channel and duplicating that into the right channel. Something that is in Premiere Pro is a simple effect, fill left with right or fill right with left. I'm also not a huge fan of Fairlight. That's the audio interface of Davinci. I like the way it works with third-party plugins, and I also like that it's integrated in the system. But same issue, there are some basic stuff that should be easy, like pan this audio left to right. I was looking at Fairlight for probably 5 to 10 minutes. So yeah, the Fairlight definitely tends to frustrate me from time to time. But like I said, I like the integration. You know, everything is in one software. You don't have to go out to, say, Adobe Audition, for example. So another thing to consider is workflow. Like I said, color has been a big part of my work for me personally. And one thing that editing inside of Davinci Resolve allows me to do is to be able to keep fine-tuning the color while I'm still making changes to the edit. With Premiere Pro, I would usually have to wait till the end of the edit when we've done all the edits to now try and now get a more polished grade, which is usually not so great because by that time there is now pressure to deliver the project, so there's no more time on my hands anymore. I don't really get to fine-tune and make sure that everything is perfect, so I might miss 1 or 2 color adjustments. But everything being inside Davinci, even while I'm sending version 1, version 2, version 3 to the client, I'm fine-tuning these colors. I'm correcting the little bits of mistakes and perfecting some areas. This is even more of a problem with feature films because we have directors, don't be offended, they want to see the final grade of the film even while we're still making changes to the edit, which is a nightmare. In an ideal situation, that's wrong. Picture lock should be achieved before the final grade commences. So what I do instead is actually an idea I got from Vashi Nedomansky. You should check him out, by the way. If you're not following him, you should definitely be following him. Is to use LUTs with tiny adjustment layers. So whatever grade that you're doing in Premiere Pro should be more like a temporary grade. So you can use a LUT and just make some tiny bits of changes to let your team know that, look, this is not the final grade, but this gives a close resemblance to what the final one will look like. Use that one to make all your editing adjustments, and then by the time you achieve picture lock, you can now send it over to the final grade that can now make the perfect and finishing touches and whatnot. So another reason why you might want to consider switching is because majority of editors and projects are still being edited in Premiere Pro, at least in my industry, which is Nollywood. So knowing that edits might need to be made in future, or you will need to work with other editors on the project, and knowing that majority of these editors are more familiar with Premiere than they are with Davinci, that might make you now decide or choose to go with Premiere Pro, at least for now, or for that particular project, as opposed to going with Davinci Resolve. Rendering, I really enjoy rendering with Davinci Resolve as opposed to Premiere Pro. I feel like with Premiere Pro sometimes it's a bit of a gamble, like your rendering can get to 86% and then one error will just pop. But with Davinci, I've just found that it's a lot more solid, it's a lot more stable, and to an extent I think it's also faster as well. I remember we're rendering Loving Rona. If you haven't seen it, I'll put the link to the trailer here. We're rendering ProRes 4K with some really heavy plugins, and that render took about 17 hours, and we did it in Davinci Resolve. No issues, no fear, nothing, and it rendered everything well. No issues, no error. I would not have been so confident, and I would not have tried it with Premiere Pro, because that feeling that you will wake up and you will just see one big red error. So to cap that, in terms of rendering, I tend to prefer Davinci Resolve as opposed to Premiere Pro. So that's one reason why I would go towards Davinci and not Premiere. Last but not least reason for you to consider switching is stability. Now, a lot of creatives complain and say that Davinci is a lot more stable. It crashes way less than Premiere Pro. My experience, and a couple of other people's experiences as well, that's not entirely true. They both crash quite often, actually. Neither one is more stable than the other. And you might say, oh, your system, I have a pretty good system and they still crash, okay? But personally, that's not so much of an issue. It might be an issue for you, but it's not so much of an issue for me, because in Premiere Pro, I save quite often, probably every 5 minutes or 3 minutes. It's just muscle memory. I do that a lot. And then in Davinci has this feature called Live Save, whereby anytime you click or you make a change, an edit change or anything like that, it saves. So in terms of, oh, this software crashes so often and I get to lose my work, that's not so much of a big deal for me. But hey, if you are one of those people that forget to do Ctrl+S, then you might want to consider going to Davinci, because it has that live save thing. But if you're pretty diligent in how you hit your save button, then I don't think that will be too much of an issue for you. And that is it. I hope I've been able to answer your question, and I didn't exactly tell you which one to switch to, because like I said, I'm not making a switch per se. I'm just right in the middle. You know, I'll use both softwares depending on the project. One software, I'll use it more than the other. There's no permanent switch going on with me yet, but perhaps with the things that we've discussed, it's a no-brainer for you. And if that's the case, congratulations. God bless you. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more videos just like this one, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you get notified of the next video when it comes out. Thank you for watching, and bye.